And then Loretta Johnson, our treasurer.
One who pays extra money.
Yes, yes. We do have membership forms at the front desk, and we would really, really appreciate, it's a nominal $20 for the yearly membership. It helps us a lot in getting set up for our headquarters. So once, we do have a location picked out for the headquarters over by Jay Henry's, which has worked out very, very well for us in the past. So the broader our membership, that enables us to do a little bit more to help work for the candidates. So if you would consider seeing Loretta with a little tiny check, we appreciate that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, or the second to last thing actually, we passed out some of these cards, the Spalding County First Call Emergency Notification System. William Wilson dropped these off this evening. I guess you register online, and when there's weather disasters, you're notified through your cell phone. So take a card, check it out, and
I can actually elaborate a little bit.
okay, go right ahead.
They actually that no cost to us beside the taxes that we already pay. They actually got a grant for a 3-year stint with this company that's actually providing the service. The alternative was putting up warning sirens or whatever all over the county, which I don't know if you guys have ever heard one go off or not heard one go off. You know, if you're already hiding in the basement or you're in, you know, an area that the siren doesn't cover, you're not going to be notified. So it's an opt-in thing. It's going to automatically call all the white page numbers, but for your cell phone or pager or email address or whatever, your Sky page or whatever, for that to be notified, you go online and you can actually put in multiple ways for it to contact you. So it's probably a much smarter system than, you know, the horns or whatever that you guys have probably seen in some other communities. So, and it's at no cost to us.
This isn't going to be like overused, is it? You know, it will strictly be for emergency, big time.
I asked that question, and it's if, you know, like if a tornado's coming through. I mean, what really kind of spawned this was the kind of devastating damage in North Griffin. I mean, that was what really spawned the conversation of us needing, of the county needing to do something about having some sort of alert or proactive warning system. So that's you know, as far as I know, there won't be any political donations stuff coming to you from that or
yeah, but
anything
be careful
like that.
what you check off in the box. Y'all be when you do it.
Yeah.
You'll be woke up at 2:30 in the morning over something you didn't want to do.
Frost warning.
Well,
Yeah.
you checked all the spots. You got to check them. We checked them.
Yeah, there are different categories.
Yes.
Thanks, Brent. So there are different categories that you can
I
check.
got the phone calls about it was a frost, big deal.
Yeah, there we go.
Cover your
So, well, if you just planted, that might be a big deal. So anyway.
Thank you, Ben. And David Lamb wanted to come up for a few minutes. He had an event this week for Lynn, Westmoreland, and he just wanted to tell us a little bit how that went.
Well, actually, I was just one of many. The sign's at the front, but it's important for us to get together, and there have been Spalding County events for Lynn in the past. And we wanted to get together, and we did it a little wider venue, and I hope most everybody in here got an email about it. And there was a wide mailing list that went out as well. But I'm looking for $175 to put us to $19,000 on cash contributions, and in-kind is going to put us probably over $23,000. So those folks that were involved, and I know the folks in this room too, realize how important it is to send this man back to Congress. And I just want to thank those of you in this room that participated. And when you see folks that are on this list and others, this list was as of Monday night, and we had several others that gave substantially the night of the get-together. Again, it was Tuesday night at the Pavilion. We had the varsity in town, and we had a little music too. And Lynn mingled and spoke to, I guess we had 80 folks there, and I think he spoke to all 80 at least once. So again, those of you that participated, thank you. And Lynn, thank you for coming and being a part of it Tuesday night.
All right, I appreciate the success of that event. That was wonderful. Well, I'm going to take a little personal privilege here in introducing our congressman. I have had an extraordinary experience recently, and most of you probably don't know, but I have a special needs daughter. and highly special needs daughter, and dealing with the system and dealing with hospitals and dealing with the bureaucracy sometimes can fall short of getting the best care possible and needed care. And I had talked to Lynn at a meeting and preemptively just telling him about some of my situation. And this is a situation I've been dealing with for 10 years, and within a week, his staff was able to cut through more red tape than I had been able to cut through in 2 years. And I was just so overwhelmed at their dedication to helping me deal with this situation that it was literally life-changing for my family. And I say this with the caveat that I know someone else that he's done this for that is not nearly as involved in the Republican Party. This level of service from our elected officials, to me, is moving, and to me, he has been one of the most accessible elected officials since I have been involved in politics. And I personally appreciate it, I professionally appreciate it, and it's just been an honor and a privilege having you watch over our community. So thank you very much, and come on out.
You know, Kathy, everybody has heroes, and you're one of my heroes. I know. No, really, I know you have a lot of plates in the air, and a lot of things spinning, and you do a great job down here. And you know, sometimes being involved with the local party, and it's not an appreciated work. And believe it or not everybody in the Republican Party gets along. And so sometimes, you know, the local parties are where the most, sometimes conflict comes from. Thanks for all of you that are on the board and serve in it, officers, especially thank you. And you know, there's not a lot of things that you get rewards about in life, but helping people is one of the things that you really can't put a price on. And when you're able to do that, that's really all the only reward you need. And tonight, the reason I was a little bit late, we had a young man get killed in Africa, Nick, and his mom and dad came over tonight with his young wife. I think they've been married less than a year, and his older brother, who is a military man too, and his younger brother, who's a college student. And we presented them with a thing that we got to do on the floor in his honor, and the flag that we got flown over the Capitol, and a certificate and a little DVD of me doing it on the floor. And you know, when you do something like that, and you have to sit there and talk to Mr. and Miss Whitlock and the brothers and the wife, it makes you realize that, you know, this life is short, and you know, you don't need to spend a lot of time having ill will with other people. You know, we're all going to have our differences. We're all going to have them, but you know, life's a lot different when you look at it from what they're looking at it from right now. Let me say first, thank you for having me, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. This is the election season, and so you're going to hear from a lot of politicians. You're going to hear from a lot of people running for office, whether it's city council, school board, county commission, state rep, state senate, Congress. We don't have any statewide offices this year. But you're going to hear a lot of people tell you a lot of things. And I want you to, if you would, when you start to make a decision, I wish y'all would look at how I have voted. And I hope that some of you may still have some of my campaign literature that I gave out in 2004, because many of you were with me right then, and read what I said I would do and what I would try to do. And I think that you can see that I've done that has been something over the last 8 years that I do. If you come into my office, if you look on the table right to the left as you walk in the door, you'll see a book about this too. And it's got all my campaign literature in it. once a month, or at least once every other month, I sit down and I read through it and look at it to make sure that I'm doing what I told you I would do. And I just want you to consider that when you start to cast your ballot. Now, my wife and I have been married for 43 years. We've got 3 children, 7 grandchildren. And my wife and I agree about 80% of the time. It's getting a little less as the years go on, but right now we're at about 80%. So if you can stay married to somebody for 43 years and you only agree about 80% of the time, I think we can make it through another 2 years with me staying in Washington. And so I'm going to ask you to rehire me in July, because we have a primary, and then again in November. We have 2 different philosophies in this country, basically. And it's not really about parties. It's about 2 different philosophies. And people go, well, why can't you just be for, why can't everybody in Washington just be for America? Just be for Americans. That's what we want. We don't want all the arguing and the fighting. And that sounds good. But how many in here are Baptists? Okay, I'm a Baptist. Have you ever been to a Baptist business meeting on a Wednesday night? Everybody there is a Baptist, but everybody doesn't get along. And sometimes we'll even see a church split over a business meeting that was at a church over things that they didn't agree about. I don't think they disagreed about a lot of things, but there was probably 2 philosophies there of what they saw the Baptist church or how it should be, whether it was Catholic or Methodist. And what we've got in this country right now, we've got 2 different groups that have different philosophies about our country. And you've got one group that has a philosophy that we should be treated as groups and not individuals, that you should pit classes of people against each other. All right, Paul. And John Yates is here. Mr. Yates, nice to see you, sir. Thank you for coming out. But you've got one group that's got a philosophy of the government can do it better than anybody. And then you've got another philosophy over here of personal responsibility and the fact that we believe in individual liberties and freedoms. And so that's what you've got. You've got 2 different philosophies. It's not that we're not all Americans, and it's not that we all can't go up here and get along, because at some point we do get along. The problem is, which direction do we want this country to go? And that's where you got to make your mind up. If you're on this team over here, be on this team as hard as you can. Evidently, unless some of you have been wayward, you're at a Republican meeting. So I would hope that you would be over here. And I would hope that you would understand that we're not going to agree on 100% of the things. But we do have a common philosophy and a common enemy about what we're facing. And that's what we have to be serious about. We can't worry about all this little petty stuff that goes on sometimes. And we're not doing ourselves any favors. In fact, we're doing them a favor. We're helping the opposition when we send out misinformation, when we send out things that maybe haven't been checked out. That brings about. I mean, it's not hard to start a rumor. It's hard to stop a rumor. It's easy to start one. This little tongue does amazing things. You start a big fire with a little match, but when you start trying to put that thing out, it's a different story. And so it's real easy to start a rumor, but it's awfully hard to stop one. So, make sure before you make comments or you send out anything that it's the truth. Now, this administration, I think, has been a disaster for this country. And I think it comes with the penalty of electing somebody we really didn't know. It's the first first time in history that I can remember that we elected somebody that really was not vetted by the media, and was not somebody we didn't know. I mean, we really didn't know him, but we're starting to get to know him. We're starting to get to know him. And I think you have to remember that, you know, John McCain was a great guy, but had he been elected, we would still be turning left. This country's been turning left for a long time. We got prayer out of school, you know, people hate us to use the word God. They argue about the pledge to the flag and the words of that. They just seem to be real unhappy. You know, Occupy Wall Street, just a big government. And we would still be going left. You know, he was doing on cap and trade, on immigration. We'd still be doing this. But we got a wake-up call. You know, if you're sleeping soundly, if you're content, sometimes you have to set an alarm clock to get you up. You know, it's nice, it's peaceful. And I think a lot of us were asleep. We were asleep. You had your own business to run, you had your family, you know, you went to church on Sundays and Wednesdays nights, you coached Little League, you were involved in Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you walked your dog every day. I mean, we were content and we were happy, and we thought, you know, this country's doing great. And about 50% of the people would turn out to vote, maybe 60%. We had a special election about 2 months ago. 8% of the people turned out to elect somebody that was going to represent 100% of the people. And so, you know, we were just rocking along. Well, when this president got elected, he took a hard left-hand turn and ran into the alarm clock. He said it all. And now people are waking up, and now people are mad. And they see things that have been going on in this country, not just in the last 3.5 years. It's been going on here forever. Some of the comments we get is about a bill that was passed that was originally written in 1971. So we've been asleep at the wheel. And in a lot of cases, and some of not you younger people, but some of us older ones, we have been asleep at the switch, and we have been a good guardian of our liberties and our freedoms, and now it's, you know, everything's kind of twisted up into a knot, and it's going to take a while to undo this. And it's also not going to be without pain. You know, if you hurt yourself, if you cut yourself, or if you have a wound, or you know, you go to the doctor and they tell you that this may sting a little bit, the best thing to do is put both hands on the bed sheets or your leg or something, because it's fixing to hurt. But you know what? If you didn't go through that cleaning out process, it would never heal. And so what we have done is that we have seen areas, whether it's spending or whatever it is, that we've seen that need to be cleaned out. Entitlements, too much wasteful spending, too much government involvement. And those are going to take some cleaning out that's going to bring pain. But, you know, we can either put a Band-Aid on it and wait for somebody else to do it, or we can do it now. But it's going to take a lot of us to have the strength to endure the pain. And that's, you know, the thing that we find the most sometimes amusing or amazing, whichever way you want to look at it. We'll cut the budget, and then the next thing you know, you have some of the people that have been telling you to cut the budget come in and tell you, just don't cut that part of the budget. You need to cut another part of the budget, or we need increased funding. Well, okay, well, where do you want to take that funding from? Well, I mean, that'd be up to you. Well, wherever we take it from and tell them we're going to give it to you, they're going to be upset. And so we've all got to learn that this is just going to take something. And it's not, you know, even if we have a good election in our favor in November, it's not going to change immediately. It is not going to change immediately. You're not going to reduce the size of this government 25% in 1 year. And so it's going to be worked down at a pace, and I think that's what Paul Ryan is doing. is that it is slowing the growth of government. And Washington is one of the only places that you can get more money this year than you got last year, and it's a cut. You get more money this year than you got last year, and they say they got a cut. It's the growing of government, and so that's what we're trying to really stop or slow down, is the growth of government. And that's the only way we're going to get it back down to where we can actually balance the budget. So, you know, these are things that that we're facing in Washington. A lot of critical decisions are being put off right now because it's an election year. And I think that we need enough men and women in Congress that are not worried about the next election, but about the next generation and what's to come. And that takes political courage. I have voted with my leadership, and I have voted against my leadership. And everything that they say is not right. And so you have to make some of those decisions. And I stand accountable for you for every vote I made today. I stand accountable to you. I stand accountable to my wife every day. The ones I fear are my grandkids that might come up to me 20 years from now and say, "Papa, why didn't you do something about that?" And so those are the words that I want to be able to say, I did do something about that. I fought for you. And this was the consequences of it. And so that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to fight for the things that we know is right, for the things that our founders intended for this to be, and for how for us to live. And I'll close with just this one thing, but just imagine that you've got a large pasture or something, and you fence it in. And the reason you fence it in is to keep animals or whatever from going outside those boundaries and getting into trouble. And so when our founders came over here, they wanted to give us plenty of room, so they built as big a fence as they could with a constitution and a small number of laws. And so the people that were here then there wasn't near as many of us, but they had plenty of room, plenty of freedom to go around. And they knew as long as they didn't break that law, that they could wander around in there and enjoy the lakes and the pasture and the beautiful weather and just have a good time and be happy and enjoy those personal property rights that they have. Ever since then, our population has been growing and our government has been shrinking our area. And all the laws that we pass, whether it's a city council or a county commission or a state rep or whatever, those laws, regardless of how meaningful they seem to be at the time, it shrinks our liberties and our freedoms. And so now we have gotten this thing, and we've gotten it to a point to where we've got conflicting laws, and people don't even know, what to do. There was a city that reported that they had a federally protected species of bird that was eating an endangered species fish. They really, they're trying to get a ruling from, I guess, Fish and Wildlife to find out if they can kill the bird or let them eat an endangered fish. And so those are some of the things that, we laugh about it, but, we have done that to ourselves. And so what we need to do is start tearing down some of those fences and let the individual freedoms go. Because right now, what's happening, and we're so crowded, if you get in a crowded place, sometimes you start elbowing around, and people get mad, and you get hot and sweaty, and people are doing that. And so what we're doing then, or what this administration is trying to do, is to cut people into groups. It's not about individuals anymore, it's about groups. It's about the women's group. We never used to talk about, women's groups. It's supposed to be an equal opportunity. And you got your racial issues. And the more we concentrate on that, sometimes the worse it gets. And then you've got the millionaires. And a lot of people don't understand, if you make $250,000 a year or more, you're considered a millionaire. And if you got a couple making $250 that's got a couple of kids in college or a special need child or whatever, you're not a millionaire. And so, you know, when we start looking at these groups that this administration has cut out for us and get them arguing with each other, then that's to their benefit, because they thrive and they grow and they build power out of unrest and unruly behavior. And that's the reason Nancy Pelosi and others have backed the Occupy movement, because it brings about unrest. And when you bring about the unrest and the divisiveness, that's what gets all the attention. And then these executive orders and all these other things that come are under the radar, and we don't pay any attention to them. So we're up there trying to do the best job that we can. And we've got a great staff. And as Kathy said, we understand our first job is to help you. We work for you. All of us work for you. And we understand that. And we like helping people, whether it's your mother, brother, sister, uncle, whether it's with Social Security, VA, IRS. We got a request today for some help with the U.S. Marshals. I don't know what that's about, but but any area of government, let us help you cut through, you know, the red tape. So Kathy, I'll open it up. It's 7:30. I don't know how long we got, but I'll be glad to open it up.
Yeah, we're here till 8, so take questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed on your resume, you're on several prestigious committees, fortunately. How long would it take a freshman representative to make his way to those committees?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it would depend on how much they participated in the process. In 2006, when we lost the majority, I was a freshman. Well, it was my second term. Tom Price and I decided that we would get together and put together a class on running the House and what the rules were. Because in the Georgia House, David, how thick is it's not that thick, little red book.
Here's one.
We're going by Thomas Jefferson's rules back in the 1800s. It's about like that. And so, if you don't know the rules, you can't win. And so we had classes, invited all the freshmen and had it. And then leadership started stressing people to come to our classes. We eventually changed the rules of the House, which was effective for us. And then in 2008, I was asked to do the candidate recruitment for 2010. So Kevin McCarthy and I did that. We traveled the country, went and visited people, and did the candidates. And then I was asked to do the redistricting for the country. We just completed that. We were successful in the candidate recruitment, and then we won 87 freshman Republicans. 63 of those had been held by Democrats. The Democrats elected 9 freshmen. And then we just finished up, we still have one state, Kansas is out. But I traveled the country doing the reapportionment from my experience here in Georgia in this federal lawsuit. And actually on paper, we gained 2 seats in the reapportionment. So being on the committees I'm on, I don't want to say was a reward, but it was a product of hard work and seeing that you will work, because the Intelligence Committee has done a lot on an individual basis. It's a very small committee. And so, and I'm the subcommittee chairman on the oversight and investigations. And we're fixing to have a hearing on the gentleman with the Immigration Department that head of intelligence for them that got caught, you know, embezzling that $600 million or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, it would take a freshman a while. I don't know that it would take them a little bit longer, but I think if you get up and if you show people that you're willing to work, then they will progress you up the ladder.
Okay, I have a follow-up question that relates to that. With the fact that you are on the House Permanent Oversight of the intelligence community. You're in charge partly of the CIA, national security, the rest of the alphabet soup that's swarming over Washington. I want to know if being on that committee has anything to do with the atrocity of 8 Republicans from Georgia voting for CISPA,
No, I mean, it's a bill that we.
or CRISPA, or however you say
It's
it.
just, no, did it have anything, me being on the committee, did it have anything with me voting for it? Yes.
Yeah, with you voting for
Absolutely.
it.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You did.
Yes, ma'am, I did. And I don't know who
I
else.
know you trust them.
I don't know that I trust them, but let me explain to you, let me explain to you exactly what this is, okay?
Because I was shocked when I saw the number of Republicans that voted for something that's taking away our liberties, that's taking away, it is taking away everything that we put in writing on the
What does it
internet.
take away? What
The
does it
CIA is gonna know about it, and the FBI.
What does it take away?
What does it take away? It takes away, they know what we're doing.
No, ma'am.
You say
I'm gonna
they
explain.
don't, Lynn,
Well,
but they do,
Well,
honey.
I'm gonna try to explain it to you, okay?
Okay, and I'm gonna
This
shut
is-
up and sit down.
And I'm gonna tell you some of the misinformation that's been going around. We worked on this bill for probably about a year. We started working on it, a little last April. And it is an intelligence committee. And none of our meetings are, well, I think we've had 2 public meetings in a year and a half I've been on. Most of our stuff is in the intelligence room, no communications, no electronics, no nothing. And we talked to, we had the ACLU, we had Google, Facebook, every privacy group in there.
I trust them all.
No, we worked on that bill for that long because what we wanted to make sure is that we didn't get into anybody's private stuff. And so that was a combination of a lot of hard work that went into it. And when we talked to big businesses that came in and other internet people that came in, and you asked them what their number 1 concern was, they said cybersecurity. And when you ask your the director of national intelligence or the CIA or Admiral Mullins or Petraeus or anybody, what is your number 1, what you wake up at night sweating over? Cyber attack. And so that's the reason we started addressing this. Now let me explain to you all this bill does. They sent out an email that said, this bill was introduced in the House on November the 30th, and it was passed out on December the 1st. And that's true. It took us 8 months or 9 months to write it. And so we did all, it was I can't tell you what the vote was, but let me tell you, it came out, Republicans and Democrats, out of the committee because we had heard all the testimony. And so, all you can do, you can either trust me or not trust me. And look, we're not going to agree together all the time.
I understand that.
And let me tell you something, I've got a family, I've got 3 kids, and I've got grandkids, and I don't want to give up my privacy. So, that was the first thing that was correct in what it said, but it didn't know the whole story. And then they sent out and said, it's not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. It is subject to the Freedom of Information Act. You can get all the info, you can submit a form and it's subject to it. If you got a spam filter or spam filter on your computer, has anybody got spyware or Norton or whatever? The government has, let's say, the best spyware, the best spam filter in the world.
I hope so.
Absolutely. And there are people hacking our computers every day. In fact, I really believe there's two different computers. Those that know they've been hacked and those that don't know they've been hacked. And we have had intellectual property rights done. Look at what China's doing with the F-35 fighter jet. Do you think we gave them the plans to that plane? Alan West, a very good friend of mine that we sit next to a lot of the times, when we were talking about this bill, which he voted for, he said that when he was in Afghanistan, that their computers were shut down for 2.5 days, that they did not have anything in the Bradley vehicles, the tanks, the communication systems, that the Chinese had come in and shut them down for 2.5 days. And so he realized the importance of not being able to do this. What this does is there is a series of digits and letters that are used on internet. And let me tell you something. I don't even know what an IP is, and I don't know how you hack a computer, and I'm not going to pretend to. But from the testimony we got, these numbers run in sequence. And they run 2 million numbers in sequence, in letters in sequence, in digits and symbols. 2 million a second runs through there. And they know what they're looking for, and they can pull it out, and they can find out where it came and where it was going. And so what this bill says, if you are at AT&T or Home Depot or wherever you're at, and you want to run your data through our spam filter and our software, you can do it. And none of the information would be pulled out unless one of those sequences of numbers or letters or I can't remember what they call the digital stuff, but if one of those comes up, it's going to show up and it's going to kick up. And if that company's computer has been hacked, then the government will call them and say, you have been hacked. And here's what information we have found that came from that hacking. You need to let the people that are doing business with you know. How do you think Piedmont Hospital found out that somebody stole all their information?
I'm facing the same thing with Emory.
Well,
300,000 files have disappeared from people that had surgical procedures
and so how do you think they found that out? And so, I mean,
But this should have been explained to us in terms
As a conservative, I'd be much more willing and much more comfortable with this if the private sector was allowed to do their job and market forces took care of this rather than big government come in saying just trust us.
No, it's voluntary.
But it's not voluntary for us though as end users. It's voluntary for the service providers. And the other thing I take issue with is that if something's found, no one is notified. And there are damages set up if information is misused, but if information is found and no one's notified, you're not going to know if this information damaged you or not. So that combined with the NDAA, where Americans can kind of be disappeared.
Have you read the bill?
I read the bill.
The 26 pages.
26 pages. Read it twice.
And so
So
well,
reviewed it today.
We interpret it differently because if any information is found, the government notifies who they did business with, that the information was there, and then the information was destroyed. The government never knows that it was Mr. Johnson or Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones.
I would rather the government never get any information.
Then don't do business with the people that run your stuff through the government.
Well, I
Aren't
mean,
you a
that's,
conservative?
so is
Aren't
it,
you a conservative?
so what choice
Aren't
do
you
we
a
have?
freedom man?
What choice do
Don't
we
do
have?
business with them.
What choices do we have?
You just wouldn't be able to do business.
We just wouldn't be able to get on the internet.
You mentioned, well, I have two questions. One is, are you going to debate your primary opponent publicly?
Well, I've got a job to do. I serve 700,000 people.
Are you willing to debate him publicly?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the second one is you mentioned the media vetting candidate Obama properly, and whether that happened or not, it seemed like there was a lot of strong favoritism given to him through the media, and now that same favoritism is being given to Romney, no matter what. Several months back, we heard Karl Rove, very much say that we're going to get behind Romney no matter what. And so even if it goes against the principles that America needs to get back to restore, what we're losing, it's like the media that you're saying didn't vet him is the one that's pushing all this stuff through polls and through some kind of organized effort that is very obvious to everyone in the world right now. It's very obvious. And so, like, what are we going to do inside the intelligence community to get back to a more honest media? Because it's obviously gotten off track of whatever the intentions of their intelligence community were and are. Because we can see it on Good Morning America when somebody kills their kids one day, they're on Good Morning America the next getting vetted one way or the other. So things are obvious.
Okay. David?
Lynn, I think one thing that is so important coming up in this election is this economy is not where it should be. People are hurting. Quite frankly, the business community is worried. I think that's why this economy is where it's at. There's no certainty out now.
Yeah,
And one of the things that as a CPA we've got coming up, and I think this nation needs to know, is we've got a sunset on all the Bush tax cuts. And I don't think people realize that, the sunset, it goes away and it reverts back to the higher rates. And maybe talk a little bit about the importance of what this election means as we come in and as we look at 2013 and 14 as we go through, what is this election going to mean to what we as taxpayers, we as business owners, we as people out there making this engine go, how is this going to affect us? And if you could comment and make sure we understand the importance of that area.
Well, David, you're exactly right. And one of the reasons that small businesses or business in general haven't expanded because they don't know what their tax consequences are going to be. Whether you're trying to do estate planning or healthcare or whatever it is, there's just so much uncertainty. Plus all the rules and regs that are being put in place. And, I went and toured Plant Yates the other day, and they were giving me some statistics about the money that they're spending to, and this is voluntarily, that they're spending to clean up some of the emissions. And then they talked about the regulations and how much it would cost if these stay the regulations. And so if they change, it's going to change their way of doing so. It's hard for them to plan how much capital investment they're going to have 2 years out if they don't know what the government is going to continue to do with the regulations. All tax extenders and breaks expire on December 31st. Even if we had a new administration, they're not going to be sworn in until the third week of January or something like that. And the Congress will probably be the second week of January to get sworn in. So hopefully those will come up during the lame duck session. Now, whether we can get them extended or not, but right now all the tax extenders go away. And so all these loopholes that you hear about, those are going away. And we're having a lot of people that you wouldn't think benefited from some of these tax extenders, but some of these nutrition programs and people that distribute food and help say, you know what, these people that are doing that for us and helping us with that, if they don't get the tax extenders, then they're probably not going to be doing this. And so there's a lot of things out there that I think we have to look at, but every one of them's up. And if we want to do away with all of them, that's great, but we're going to feel some pain from it. And a lot of revenue is going to be raised. I think it's $4 trillion. I think is what would be raised. But they're up, and see, we're doing all this short-term planning. And we passed a budget in April, or right around April, end of April. We passed the Ryan budget. The Senate hadn't passed a budget in over 3 years. It's hard to negotiate yourself. And so what's going to end up happening, they're not going to pass a budget, and they're going to do another continuing resolution. And so that'll just run through, the end of September, and then we'll have another big fight about closing down the government, and, what are we going to do? And are we going to do another continuing resolution? And so, it's a mess because we don't have enough people up there with the guts to make some long-term decisions.
If we get a majority in the
I've already
Senate.
let you ask, I'm gonna let the
I'm
sweet
sorry.
lady here in the pink ask.
Yes, sir. I have 2 or 3 things to say, and I don't want to have to get up again, so I thought I'd just go ahead and mention them now.
Sure.
Obama is doing so many things through executive power, all these things he's doing that he clearly does not have the power to do, that Congress is supposed to authorize, and yet he's doing them with impunity. And I'm wondering, why doesn't Congress do something about it and stop it or raise such a stink that he thinks twice? Because he just, all the time I'm reading where he's doing things. And the other thing is totally different. Monsanto has these GMOs, and we can't get our food labeled as to what has genetically modified organisms in it. And all our food just about has it, and we would like to have the choice of what we eat. And for some reason, they're able to stonewall, and we cannot get that passed to where they've got to label the food. And I feel that's very important. I know there's a movement trying to get Monsanto to do this, but they seem to be very, very powerful in Congress. And so those are my 2 things. Obama and his executive orders that nothing's being done, and the food labeling.
Okay. First of all, let me say about the Obama executive orders. We have not done all of them because there's been so many. But an executive order is instructions to a government agency. Okay? And so we have voted in the House on a couple of the executive orders to reverse. In other words, we've told the agency, you can't do that, and we would have put it in the law. The problem is, when you're going to put something into the law, the Senate has to pass it, and the President has to sign it. So, when even though we've passed those through the House, they hadn't gone anywhere. Now, we can continue to pass them. We can continue to beat our chests and tell everybody, what we've done in passing these things. It's not going to change this president. This president is ruling this country like a kingdom rather than a republic.
He's slicker than Slick Willie.
And, well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences. In fact, that, he is more manipulative, I think, than what President Clinton was. But, like I said before, this has been going on a long time. It's been going on a long time. And so the executive orders and the czars and the other things, I think is what the American people are waking up to, going, we're not going to do that. And so you look at cap and trade. Got a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, Democratic President. He couldn't get cap and trade passed. So what did he do? He gives an executive order to Lisa Jackson at the EPA to regulate the carbon emissions, and that's what she did. The DREAM Act, to allow young people that came into this country illegally, but they were 2, 3, 4, 5. They would join the military or go to college. They could be a citizen. They could become a citizen. The DREAM Act. Couldn't get it through his Democratic House or his Democratic Senate, and so what happened? He sends an executive order down to Napolitano and say, look, you need to make up a list of criteria of who we can deport. You know, that's the way you rule a kingdom. If you go to, you know, the National Labor Relations Board, and if you look at card check, you know, the thing that would make it easier to unionize. Democratic House, Democrat Senate, couldn't get it passed. And so what do? He does a recess appointment, hires a labor lawyer to head up the National Labor Relations Board, and what's the first thing they do? They sue South Carolina for bullying. And because, you know, I believe it's because it's a right to work state,
Yeah.
and the unions don't like it. So,
Well, that
you know,
didn't work
those
out for
executive
them.
orders, we can do everything we want to, but if we wanna put it in code and put it in the law, the Senate has to pass it, and the president has to sign it. And as far as the food labeling, I have not heard anything about the MSOs,
GMOs.
GMOs. You know.
It's poison in our food.
I have not, but we will look into that, and, you know, that is another regulation that we'll put on the books.
It would be
And,
nice to see your office come out with a position on genetically engineered and genetically modified.
And do you have any knowledge about EPA and Monsanto and the relation between those two?
Get rid of it.
That'd be a good place.
I'm sure that they know.
That'd be a good place to start.
It's my understanding that the man who used to be the head of Monsanto is now the head of the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Big surprise.
Tom?
If you can talk briefly about your position on the Intelligence Committee and tie that into energy independence.
Yeah, you know, we had a public testimony, and I asked the Undersecretary of State, you know, if he felt like our national debt was more dangerous to us or our energy crisis. And he said, well, I think it's probably the national debt and then the energy. And so, you know, right now China is going around the world investing in other countries, and they're buying their precious metals and their oil rights, basically, and their energy. And, you know, you go down to some of the South American countries, you go to Vietnam, North Korea, even in Iraq. They're buying some precious metals, you know, now from Iraq. So their energy, and they're going to continue to get energy. They use 50% of the world's cement right now. They use about probably the same amount of coal. And so they have to grow their economy from an intelligence standpoint or security standpoint about 7 to 9% a year. Because if they don't, they can't keep everybody employed. And right now, they understand that they're facing an age crisis in their society, and the fact that they limited families to one child. And so now people are getting older, but right now, you know, you can ride through China and you'll see buildings built, nice new buildings, and there's no occupied whatsoever. But they were built, and so they're using a lot of energy. We're competing for that same energy because we refuse to use our own natural resources. And so we have started putting out a thing, you know, called Power America with Our Energy. And that's what we feel like we need to do. We've got more natural gas, and Saudi Arabia's got oil. We've got the largest coal deposit here that the next 5 countries have put together. We've got shale oil, and we've got Canada trying to sell us about 700,000 barrels of it. And so, you know, our energy is definitely a problem. And with the new regulations that are going on our power plants, I think probably by the year 2015, 2016, you're gonna see some rolling brownouts and blackouts. And you add that to the uncertainty of the economy, and that'll be a big problem.
But if we run out of energy, we can't turn our computer on, the cyber bomb, huh?
Yeah. That's a good way. Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the CISPA bill, just a couple of questions I have. I've read the bill, but the way that you were explaining it, you said that America has the biggest, greatest, security, right? So, and you said that they can pull from any of those IPs what they want. What you said, like if they're looking for something, they can find it. You're saying that you're allowing businesses to use the same thing to filter out. All right, so what's stopping businesses from wanting to target a certain person and looking up certain things and then going after us? You asked her what you're giving up. It's your right to privacy. And, I mean...
Well, the company can do that now.
But I'm saying, like, the way the bill is written, the government, and even what you said, the government is allowing them to do it, to go through and pull everything. I mean, isn't that...
No, the government's not allowing them to do it. The only thing the government is looking for is hacking or security codes that we know come from foreign entities in here. And a lot of that information has already been shared with us by companies. But this is a voluntary thing for that company to do. It does, I mean, if a company has your information on their computer, they can look at it if they want to.
All right, so it's strictly looking up hacker information, like it wouldn't target any specific person, say they Googled something and
When you're
you could
looking
pull
at
anything up?
2 million of those a second, it's hard to target you. I mean, it really is.
But I mean, say you fit a
we got
pattern.
320 million people here, and I don't know that they're gonna be, targeting anybody. Look, this is not the IRS doing this. I mean, this is the CIA, the NSA, and I mean, don't trust them. Look, I don't trust everybody, but at some point in time, this is a national security threat. This is a national security threat. And, I hate to tell you, but we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can. If we have the ability to identify these codes as coming from somebody that's trying to do harm to this country, then we need to pick it out.
But from the bill, from what I've seen, it says what can be done, but it doesn't say what can't. It doesn't give a limit as to what could be gone through. You see what I'm saying? That's where it kind of goes into more of a privacy issue. It tells them, okay, you can use this, but...
And I don't know if we read the same bill or not. It was 26 pages, so I'm assuming, I'm gonna take your word for it, because I saw that what it said was that it was a voluntary program, that any company could come to the government and have them run that information through that system. The only information the government would see is if some code kicked out of that as some security identification that we have already identified, or if it was some combination that we didn't recognize. And then it is spit out your personal information. It identifies, the company that it came out of, and then they notify the company if it is a security breach or if it's not a security breach. If it's not a security breach in the bill, the information is destroyed. They don't go in there and say, is this Kathy Noble that we're looking at here? It does say that if, the company doesn't want to voluntarily do it, that the government cannot go in and make them do it. So, look, anybody you're doing business with, call them up tomorrow and say, are you going to send this stuff through the national security? You're going to use CISPA. If they say yes, just move your account, move whatever it is, because it's strictly a voluntary thing, and I'm sure everybody's not going to volunteer to do it. I talked to somebody from DHL, UPS, and FedEx. They voluntarily did this about 2 months ago. They went to the government and said, hey, can you help us identify how somebody or who got into our stuff? And so they do more handling of freight and shipments and things in the world. And they wanted to make sure, you know, that they didn't have somebody hacking their computer that could do something to get something sent somewhere that they didn't want it to go. And if the companies that you're doing business with never find out that they're being hacked, then your information is being given away anyway. Yes, sir. Is everybody sitting on the left over here asking questions? Is this just my left? No. Oh, is it just my left?
I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. And first, I'd like to tell you where I come from. I'm a hardcore conservative Republican. And I understand that a lot of Republicans these days aren't so hardcore conservative. The way I feel about government is, I feel like the more they're involved in something, the more that something is going to get manipulated and messed up. I feel 110% that the expansion of government has gotten completely out of hand. And I feel like our government needs to shrink. All right, what I want to ask you today is not trying to heckle you, and I'm just being sincere. I would like to know your thoughts on this, and just so you clarify, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But NDAA seems to be in a government expansion in my eyes. The bailouts seem to be a government expansion in my eyes, as well as SOPA and CISPA, which SOPA did get voted down, but CISPA got voted in. All right. I've listened to the things that you spoke of today, and I sincerely agree with a lot of the things you say, but in personal liberty and freedom for your constituents and for the citizens of the United States, I feel like the government needs to be limited in their role in our lives. And those three things, CISPA, NDAA, and the bailouts, well, you voted against the bailouts at first, and then you turned around on the second vote and voted for them, or did? Did you really? Well, then I sincerely apologize. Like I said, I wanted you to correct me if my information was wrong. But with that being said, the NDAA,
I voted for it.
and that is, to me,
What part of it do you not like?
what I don't like about it is the way that, and I've watched the video over and over, where basically on the floor, they were talking about the rights of people who are suspected terrorists without, this is what really kills me, is the fact that they don't have to have proof to come in and take you in. And they also...
That's a different bill.
The NDAA has the loss of habeas corpus, I believe, isn't it, the NDAA? Yes, sir.
Yes.
They can
Okay,
get you.
I'm assuming that we've all read that bill through, right? Okay, well, I'm gonna read you the part, excuse me, but let's just do this one item at a time.
Yeah, I really...
Because here's the question that most people really have, and that's on the American citizens being detained without due process.
Right.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
Okay,
Indefinitely.
here's what the bill says. Applicability to United States citizens and lawful resident aliens. United States citizens. The requirement to detain a person in military custody under this section does not extend to citizens of the United States.
Read it again.
That's not what
I'm just telling you what it says. You don't believe it?
That's the NDAA.
Yeah.
Yeah, read it again.
It says United States citizens. The requirement to detain a person in military custody under this section does not extend to citizens of the United States.
Does that cover drone strikes? Like, and as in the case of Anwar al-Awlaki was an American citizen and he got assassinated by a drone?
You wouldn't have done that?
It's not that I wouldn't have done it. That's a bad precedent. That's a scary precedent.
Did you want to capture him and bring him back over here?
Sure.
And try him in American court?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the law.
Absolutely.
That's the law.
All right, here's the second part. Lawful resident aliens. The requirement to detain a person in military custody under this section does not extend to a lawful resident alien of the United States on the basis of conduct taking place within the United States, except to the extent permitted by the Constitution of the United States. In other words, if you've got somebody here with a green card, like our terrorists have, some of them have, and they're doing terrorist acts, or they're creating treason, then you can put them in military custody. And so the bill is very plain, but there's so much misinformation out there about it, and what it was is I think that the president made some kind of comment about he would never do that. Well, he can't do that, because, it's written in the bill. It says no American citizen can be detained in military custody.
I guess my biggest concern was this. With the laws that are already in existence, without doing a NDAA, we already have our local police, our state police, we already have the CIA, the FBI, we already have our military, we already have all these things that in essence are created to protect our citizens of the United States. And my only hiccup on the whole thing was, why do we need more?
Well, no, we could have not reauthorized the National Defense Bill. We could have not reauthorized it and just not had a national defense.
No, that's only very few things our government is set out for to do.
Okay, well, that's the
And our
reason we
government is set
reauthorized
out for, first off, to protect our country. What I'm saying is the protections outside of that bill weren't good enough. Our protections outside of the NDAA weren't already protecting our country, is what I'm asking.
Did we need new laws?
Did we need new laws? Yeah, exactly, to protect us. What, was it already not doing its job?
Well, I think after 9/11, we found out that we really were not doing our job as well as we should have.
This was 10 years later.
I know, and we're still trying to fix what we need to do, because this war changes every day. Technology changes every day.
I understand.
This, you know, the CISPA bill has a 5-year sunset on it.
That's the only fair thing in it.
So, it does, but I'll take one more. But I'm sorry, yeah, but is that it?
You didn't mention the bailouts, why they were,
I voted against all the bailouts.
did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm an anti-bailout guy.
But they never prosecuted anybody who ruined the economy, right? I mean, that's not your fault, that's the president's fault. But,
There needs to be people wearing orange jumpsuits.
yeah, I agree.
You know,
The president
and,
didn't do anything.
They don't need to be in these ivory towers. And the consequence of that is our community banks going out.
To finish my comment, I would like to say, on behalf of myself, I sincerely appreciate you not voting for those bailouts.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wanted to repeat a question you were asked Tuesday night, and it has to do with Obamacare and the word on the street in Washington about whether it's going to be ruled constitutional or unconstitutional.
Well, it's you know, as we witnessed by some testimony tonight, it's hard to say what our judicial system is going to do. They've been known to create a few laws themselves by their ruling. I do think that I think this court is considering all of this and will understand that if they decide that the government can make us buy health insurance, what's to keep them from buying a certain refrigerator? Or what's to keep us from buying a certain size car? Or what's to, keep us from not having to buy some other type of policy? And so I do think our justices is going to rule the individual mandate unconstitutional. The next step will be there was no separation clause put in that bill to where if one part was ruled unconstitutional, that it would just be ejected away and the rest of the bill would. And so I think they've got to find the whole thing unconstitutional if they rule the mandate. The other thing is that the individual mandate is to pay for, really, for the Obamacare or Affordable Health Care Act. is gonna give, his opponent, whoever that is, a bump, to make sure that it doesn't happen, so. David, I wish I could tell you, Obamacare is gonna be a nightmare. I don't know if y'all read the articles today, I think in the Wall Street Journal about, now all the big companies are saying, the $2,000, they're just gonna pay it and, put the people in the, pools.
You know where they're going, don't you?
Yeah, to the
Well, to
exchange,
the
the
state.
state, yeah.
They're estimating that if this goes through, just to set up the system, the state of Georgia will experience for about, I think it's 5 or 6 years, $400 million additional costs. Right,
It's $2 billion.
Yeah, over 6 years.
How
about
nullification?
And businesses with more than 50 full-time employees, and it could eventually include full-time equivalents, that they will have to pay a penalty of $2,000. Right now, it's $2,000 per employee over 30, that you get a free ride for 30. There is some talk already on the street, I believe, about the 2,000. The way the bill is written will not be enough to take care of all the insurance. The other thing is talking about all of the major large corporations that will drop their insurance. That's the only way they can afford to stay in business.
Well, Dave, the scary thing is that I think there was 111 boards, agencies, and commissions created under this legislation. And most of those have not even been created yet. So we really, even though Nancy Pelosi said if we passed the bill, we would know what was in it, we still don't really know the outcome of all those different things that are in it. And so those are some things that we've got to look forward to if this thing goes through. And so that's the reason we need to at least elect enough in the Senate that they can get something passed, or maybe they'll have the courage to change the Senate rules to where 51 is the majority over there. And, we need to keep the House, and then we need a president that would sign the bill to repeal it. And of course, I don't know if you saw the administration was coming out today saying that if this thing was found unconstitutional, if it was thrown out, it would have great consequences to our healthcare system now because of all the things that have been put in place. Well, listen, thank all of you. You're going to have, we've got some yard signs over here, and I know some of you may not want one, but if you do, I appreciate you getting it. And, and the thing about it is that, whether you're going to support me or my opponent or whatever the case is, do it, support it. Work hard for it. And, if it's a bumper sticker, put it on. If it's a yard sign, because people come to hear me. I'm not going to talk to all 700,000 people. I'm not going to talk to probably 1/10 of the people that ride by your house every day. But if they see a yard sign in your yard, then they go, you know what? Mr. Johnson's for him, I'm going to be for him. Because I know him. If Tom's going to be for him, I'm going to be for him. And so those yard signs make a big difference. And so if you want to take one of mine, great. If you want to take somebody else's, just put it up. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We got too many people to say, I'm a conservative Republican, or I'm a libertarian, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm a progressive. Don't be afraid. Stand up for what you believe in. So thank all of you. God bless you. Thank you for having me.